Hello, thank you for joining us tonight for the Rock Tavern to Sugarloaf virtual pre-construction open house. My name is Shannon Baxavanis from New York Transco, and we just wanted to give you some quick housekeeping items before we started the webinar. This is scheduled for 1 hour, but we will conclude the webinar once we've answered all of the questions that are in the queue. Please keep your device muted as we go through the presentation to eliminate any background noise. If you do have questions, we ask that you save them for the end of the presentation. There is a question and answer feature built into the webinar, and you can put in questions at any time, but we won't answer them until we conclude the presentation. You can also raise your hand, and the moderator of the call, Chris Marshall, can unmute you, and you can ask the question live. If you are having technical difficulties with your computer or the device that you called in on or logged in on, you can call from a phone. It's a toll-free number. It's 877-853-5247. And the webinar ID is 883-3548-7315. We are recording this presentation and it will be available up on our website, rtsupgrade.com, within 48 hours of this webinar. With that, we'll get into the contents of the presentation. Next slide. New York Transco is the organization that's developing and will be constructing the Rock Tavern to Sugarloaf project. We are an organization focused on improving and building out the bulk transmission network, which is the electrical network that helps bring energy to homes and businesses. Think of it as sort of as the superhighway that brings energy to where it's consumed. We're focused on a number of projects right now that help facilitate clean energy, relieve congestion on the system, and do so in a way that bolsters reliability and resiliency while minimizing impacts to local communities and the environment. We have a number of assets on the bulk transmission system today that we own and operate, and we have a number of projects that are in various stages of either construction or development. And today we're here to talk to you about the Rock Tavern to Sugarloaf project. Next slide. The Rock Tavern to Sugarloaf project is one of many projects across New York State right now that are being advanced to improve the electric transmission network. The projects that you see on your screen were a part of a New York Independent System Operator selection. It was a competitive process where the New York Independent System Operator, who maintains the bulk transmission network and controls energy markets, where they selected certain developers to advance either the more efficient or cost-effective projects. And there are a number right now that are in construction, including one from NYPA and LS Power. It's called Segment A. It goes from just outside of Utica to just outside of Albany. Segment B, which is a New York Transco project that goes from Schodack down to Pleasant Valley. And Segment B Addition, which is the Rock Tavern to Sugarloaf project in Orange County. All of these projects work together to help relieve congestion on the transmission network in this key interface and helps advance clean energy goals in New York State. As such, we'll be able to reduce energy prices and bolster system reliability. Next slide, please. The Rock Tavern to Sugarloaf project is a replacement of an existing transmission line and structures. There's a corridor, an existing transmission corridor that runs 12 miles from the town of New Windsor down to Chester. It travels through New Windsor, Hamptonburg, Blooming Grove, and Chester. This 12-mile line, which you can see an example of the right-of-way in the picture labeled current. We will be taking out the existing lattice structure that's circled in orange. That's a 115 kilovolt lattice structure that's about 95 years old. We'll be replacing that with a new modern monopole structure that you see circled in the future picture, almost on a one-for-one basis down the 12-mile stretch in this existing right-of-way. The new structures will go near where the old structures are, but will not be in the same exact location. We'll also be doing work at either end of the line at the existing stations, one in New Windsor and down in Chester, and we'll get into a little bit more of those details in a moment. All of the work that we'll be performing as part of the Rock Tavern to Sugarloaf project will stay within existing utility corridors or on utility property. Next slide, please. This is just another view of the work that we'll be doing. You can see a cross section of the corridor. And on the left-hand side where you see current, we have an existing 345 kilovolt structure, which is a taller lattice tower. We will not be touching that as a part of this project. What we will be removing is the smaller lattice structure. And you can see on the future side, we've superimposed what the new structure will look like over the old structure that we will be removing. The new structure will be on average 6 feet taller than the old structure that we will be removing, but it will have a single foundation as a monopole. Next slide. In order to advance a project like Rock Tavern to Sugarloaf, one of the key permits that we need to obtain is through the Article 7 with the New York Public Service Commission. This is a place where electric transmission projects like Rock Tavern to Sugarloaf go for a comprehensive permitting effort. It incorporates all of the state agencies and key parties and allows for public involvement and opportunity to comment on the project as we advance through the various Article 7 phases. This project has been going through the Article 7 process since the fall of 2020. And you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, we have a case number located there and a website. This is where you can find out all sorts of information about not only our Article 7 application, but also other projects that are undergoing the same process. We also, in addition to the Article 7 process, have a detailed municipal coordination effort that we undergo, including things like executing road use agreements, stormwater pollution prevention plans, and maintaining an open and constant line of communication with our municipalities to ensure that they have all of the information on the project and can participate in all phases of the project from development through construction and restoration. Next slide, please. In order to get to construction, a part of the Article 7 process includes a multitude of steps. We've sort of simplified them here on this screen, but you can see on the left-hand side in the green box, the various Article 7 approvals that we've obtained or activities that we've pursued to get to the place of construction. Our most recent approval for through the Article 7 process is called the Phase 2 Environmental Management and Construction Plan. And this plan outlays all of the construction activities and environmental protections that we'll put in place for our phase 2 work, which includes all of the transmission line work described, as well as the station work in New Windsor and Chester, respectively. We received those approvals from the Public Service Commission on May 12th and have advanced a number of pre-construction activities, and we're working toward receiving our notice to proceed to construction from the Public Service Commission. We anticipate starting construction for this phase 2 work, again, all of the transmission line and station work on or about June 6th. We will have more detailed construction schedules and look aheads for future construction located on our website. And that's something that we'll be communicating out in a variety of notification forms that I'll describe in just a moment. In addition to that, our pre-construction activities also include pre-construction road use surveys, conducting pre-construction meetings with municipalities, state agencies, and other key stakeholders, and maintaining notifications and website updates to keep the public and all other interested parties involved. Next slide, please. The first station work that we'll have to do, and we don't have a detailed schedule in terms of which end we're going to start at right now to share, but part of the work that we'll be doing, and we're just starting in a north to south direction for the purposes of this presentation, is the Rock Tavern Substation. This is an existing facility up in New Windsor. There are 2 components within that facility. One is a 345 kilovolt substation that's ringed in red here. We won't be touching that as a part of this project. Where we will be doing work is inside the fence line in the green box, which is the 115 kilovolt existing substation. And from there, once that minor work's complete, we'll be doing line work coming out of there for the replacement that I detailed earlier. We'll go town by town to show each of the components of line work. Next slide, please. So in New Windsor, you can see the Rock Tavern substation just to the north up there, denoted with that green triangle. We'll have about a half a mile of transmission line work where we'll remove the old lattice structures. There are 3 old lattice structures, and we'll put in 3 new monopoles in that existing right-of-way. And then we'll continue to the next town, next slide, into Hamptonburg. We'll have about 2 miles of that same overhead transmission line work where we'll take out 15 existing lattice structures and put in 15 new monopoles. And then we'll continue down into Blooming Grove. This is where we have the bulk of our line work with 6 3/4 miles, removing 51 existing lattice and replacing with 50 new monopoles. And then we conclude the line work down in Chester. And in this main corridor, we have 2.5 miles of overhead work where we'll take out 20 existing lattice and put in 22 monopoles. And we'll also have some work in the Sugarloaf substation. You can kind of see there's multiple stations here that are ringed in various colors. The one that we'll be working at is in green. It's to the top of the picture there. That's a 115 kV station that we will be rebuilding as a part of this. So we will be demolishing the existing station and rebuilding this 115 station in that same location. We've already completed the vegetation clearing for that construction work. And in addition to rebuilding that station, where you see the blue dashed line crossing over Sugarloaf Mountain Road, we will be installing a 1,000-foot overhead line that will tie the 115 kV rebuilt station into the 138 kV Sugarloaf switching station that's down in the bottom in yellow. Part of the project is having laydown yards. So these are facilities that we identify where we can have crews coordinate before they go off to job sites. These will be places where we store materials and equipment while we're performing the construction. And there are 2 sites that we have secured as laydown yards for this temporary use during construction. One is in Chester off of Andrews Lane, and the other one is in the village of South Blooming Grove off of Route 208. So we will start using those. That'll be one of the first things we do as part of our construction effort, is getting these laydown yards set up for our use. And we have communicated with the nearby landowners about these 2 yards, and we'll continue to do that as we advance the project. Next slide, please. In terms of the basic construction process, there's a lot of things that happen in sequence at the same time, but the first thing we really do is get our sites prepped. So I mentioned getting the laydown yard set up. We'll also do flagging and staking, doing vegetation work to get ready, putting in any access roads, or matted roads, gravel roads, putting in work pads, and then we go into installing environmental controls. And all of this is detailed in our environmental management and construction plan that's been approved by the Public Service Commission. So these environmental controls could include things like installation of hay bales or silt fences, things that would help with environmental protection as we advance toward construction of the project. And then we would move into both the transmission line and station work. And there's a variety of steps that we would take for the transmission line rebuild work, which include removing the old structures and the old wires, drilling new foundations, erecting the new structures. The structures come to the site in pieces. They are assembled on site and erected on site. And then we would string wires and energize the project. Obviously, that's a very simple explanation of the construction, but we'll have more details about the construction and the phasing of that on our website as we get clearer schedules for each of the towns we'll be in. And then the final step that we would undertake is restoration to make sure that the areas that we've been performing construction in are back to their original condition. We anticipate starting construction again on June 6th, on or about June 6th. And we anticipate completing construction by end of year 2023. And that's something we'll keep folks updated on as we advance toward all of these efforts. Next slide, please. We do have some information about our construction process, and this is again included in our environmental management and construction plan. We just recently conducted a pre-construction meeting with all of the state agencies, municipalities, and other key parties to discuss this and go over all of the components. Our 2 construction contractors, we have Michaels as the lead contractor and Supreme Industries doing access. They'll be working out on the project from Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Those are the typical work hours that are approved. If there's something that falls outside of those work hours, we do need to get approval from the New York Department of Public Service and provide notifications to the affected municipalities and local neighbors for where that work would be occurring outside of that designated work schedule. Everybody goes through environmental and safety training. These are really key elements for everything that we do for the project construction. It's given to all project personnel. We do send monthly reports to the Department of Public Service on our progress, and this includes all public comments we receive. So if we do get feedback from neighbors or from municipalities, we log that, we keep track of that, and that's something we report on. If we have complaints that cannot be resolved within 10 days, we notify the Department of Public Service to continue to forge a path of resolution. Our environmental management and construction plans, which include all drawings, all details about the construction, are available at area libraries as well as through our project website. These are pretty dense documents with lots of information in them, but they're a good resource to understand all components of the project. I mentioned notifications. This is a requirement of the work that we provide construction commencement notifications. Those have already been mailed out, the initial ones following our approval by the New York Public Service Commission for this EM&CP Phase 2. We will continue notifying neighbors as we get into particular geographic areas, and we will keep the constant communication of what we're doing and where, so that there are no concerns, and if there are concerns, that you have a channel to get them to us. We'll go through this process throughout the entire construction effort, including restoration. And again, our project website will be updated regularly with schedule information for where we are doing construction and what activities we're performing. We have 2 key outreach contacts that are listed on here. Nicole Shamoon, who's our community liaison, is reachable through our toll-free number, 1-800-314-4236. And we do have an email address, questions@rtsupgrade.com. Those both go to Nicole, and Jesse Bova, our agricultural inspector, will be out talking to the agricultural community along the right-of-way in Orange County as we move forward in construction. Next slide. We'll continue to provide forums for asking questions or getting information. The best place to look will be our website, rtsupgrade.com. That is a central repository and provides a toolbox for all project information. We'll continue to update that throughout the project process. We'll continue to have municipal updates and briefings to ensure that all of the local municipalities have the details they need on construction. And we'll keep our fact sheets up to date that are on the project website now. But if there are ever any questions or comments at any time, please call our toll-free number. Again, that number is 1-800-314-4236, or shoot us an email at questions@rtsupgrade.com. Next slide. That brings us to the conclusion of this presentation. We hope you found it informative for answering some of the pre-construction questions you might have had. We will stay on the line here to accept any further questions. Again, use the Q&A feature that's built into the webinar, or raise your hand and our moderator will unmute you to ask the question. We'll just pause for a couple of minutes to see if any questions pop up. I don't see any in the queue right now. Okay, not seeing any questions. We'll close out today's webinar. We do appreciate your participation and interest in the Rock Tavern to Sugarloaf project. We welcome your questions and comments at any time. Please reach out to our team, and we'll keep you informed as we advance this critical energy infrastructure project. Thank you very much.